Attention Caribbean authors and creators. Are you looking to elevate your literary journey? This is Kevin George, your host and presenter from TLC Tropical Literature Creatives, and I'm thrilled to share an exciting opportunity with you, introducing our bespoke promotional services designed exclusively for authors of Caribbean heritage. Whether you're a seasoned professional or a rising star, we're here to amplify your voice. From getting the word out about your book launch, your self-publishing services, or workshops, to sharing services that you offer to fellow authors and creatives. Visit our website or reach out to us today to explore how we can tailor our expertise to showcase your literary brilliance. Let's unlock the next chapter of success together. Greetings, listenership. Welcome to TLC, Tropical Literature Creatives, the podcast where we interview authors of Caribbean heritage about themselves and about their literary works. Some of the authors you've heard of, and some of them we're hearing about soon enough. Today we have with us the daring Daniel Francis. Daniel is the author of A Millennial Mind, and he has one of the as his taglines, a millennial helping other millennials. Daniel, thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed by Tropical Literature Creators.
No problem. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to this interview.
It's been a long time coming because I'm always on the lookout for authors of Caribbean heritage. And when I saw your book, I don't see much like it around. And I'm not knocking the genres that we do. I mean, we see a lot of poetry. Sure, the Caribbean is rich for persons who have creative minds. But for something along these lines, you don't really see it come very often.
Not really. Yeah, I think it really is a hub for creativity. So that's why book writing never really came to me. It was never something that I thought I wanted to do. But when you look at the line of entrepreneurship, and if you are doing a very niche thing, a book makes a lot of sense, a lot of sense, and it makes sense in different ways than it does for if you're in a creative mind, which is so interesting to explore through my experience with all of this.
Right. Oh, there's a question that I usually ask guests when they come onto the program, and it goes like this. It's more of a scenario. Imagine I'm coming to Trinidad for the first time, let's say for Carnival this year. Okay, maybe Carnival is not a good example, but we'll just roll with it. The scenario is this. We encounter each other at the airport. I'm coming to Trinidad and it's my first time in Trinidad. What would you recommend that I try as I'm here? What food, what place? Recommend something or some things.
I would definitely say you gotta go on a food road trip. Try all of the local dishes that are so popular here. My favorite is roti and bus up shot, doubles, head to the beach and get a bacon shark. I know gyros are worldwide, but I don't know. I like our gyros more than I like the ones I've had, let's say in the States. Going out and get a gyro. And then, I mean, there's so much sites. It's like, I feel like there's something for everyone here. If you want to just go chill on the beach, if you want to ride ATVs, if you want to go and explore our pitch lake, there's so many different options. And of course, well, if you have a carnival, I mean, you could just go on the road and experience a festival that you will never experience anywhere else in the world.
I think some of our Calypsonians describe it as the greatest show on earth. So
yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, are you a full-time author?
That's a hard question to answer. I would say, I guess yes. I see myself as an entrepreneur. So under that umbrella, there are a few things, but one of them is definitely an author. So full time in the essence that it's within that range of things that I do.
Okay. All right. Is this your first book?
Right. So The Millennial Mind would have been my first book back in 2020, actually in the heights of COVID. And as a result of that book and some of the feedback I got as well, I would have launched my second book, The Millennial Experience, 1 year later. That would have been 2021. And then I took a little break. And funny enough, this year, the goal will be to launch 4 books. So because I took a very long break, and I know it's a weird thing to say that I'm going to be launching so many books. I think the way things happen, it makes perfect sense to me in that, the last one would have been 2021. And I don't know, books are like, for me anyway, it's like getting a tattoo. You get one, for some reason, you just get ideas for more, and you want to get that. That happens to me. So with The Millennial Mind, after writing that first one, I just got some really great feedback from persons, and obviously, it did pretty well. So I have a document that just had all the different ideas that I wanted to do. So it's really just been trying to action those books. And as a result of the book, the first one doing so well, a lot of local authors would have reached out to me asking questions, wanting feedback, basically just to do the same thing, just trying to understand the process. And it was through those helping them, guiding them, and and I mean there was even a point where I was doing free author webinars for an entire year because it's just every week it's the same questions, So I said and I felt like it was very tough for me to find information, so I never wanted to tell anyone no. So that's basically why I do webinars. But the webinars then led into me starting like a self-publishing service, um, and creating a whole new series of books. So when I said 4 books this year, it's not all in the millennial series. It's going to be starting in a new series as well with books that help authors learn about the process of self-publishing, marketing their book, selling their book, understanding the mind of an entrepreneur, and all these different things. Just taking off of the experience I would have gained, through process and just sharing it with the world. Because I think
Yeah.
publishing here in the Caribbean is very different than if you publish anywhere else, I think.
I mean, I mean, you're kind of cutting my interview down because I was getting to the self-publishing part, and then you drop this bomb on me. You drop
Sorry,
this on
sorry.
me. But that's no
Yeah.
problem, man. That's no problem because I still want to find out. I mean, the fact that you went as far as to document the self-publishing process, put it into books, and packaging it and selling it as a service to persons. I have to admit, that is impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I just filled a need
Mm.
because the education side of it quickly turned into, hey, just publish my book for me. So it just kind of made sense to create a publishing company that offers self-publishing services, because when you start an author campaign, it's just a lot of moving parts. You're talking about getting your book edited, getting your book cover, getting it on Amazon, figuring out how you're going to do local production and distribution, how you're marketing your book, what you need to know for sales, all these different options that you have. And it can be overwhelming. Um, it can be difficult to find very specific information that can have a huge impact. So when you're saying that you want the best for your book, sometimes it's just easier to just ask for the help or to get the service done, because again, when I started it, I felt super overwhelmed. There was just so much happening, and it was very difficult to know what decisions are the right decisions when you were just kind of doing it on your own, which is why, again, all the authors kept asking for assistance. And it's not to say the information wasn't necessarily out there, but again, if you have an idea for a book and you think it's great, but you've never written anything before, how do you know where to look? It's not as easy as Googling it. You might get what the Caribbean specific things that you need to do here. And that's just something that's a need I saw because I needed it myself. And I decided that this is something I'm gonna fill.
No, and I like that statement that you used there, Caribbean specific, because I mean, you could find information that's out there, but the
Yeah.
information would be general, just like a lot of the information sources we may have, like maybe in the States or in the UK, and it may be information specific to them, but not so much for the Caribbean. And I think that is very commendable. Um,
I can give one example actually. So I remember when I first launched my book, I just put everything on Amazon. I thought, yeah, this will be fine. Just put everything on Amazon, send everybody there. Trinidad doesn't have a high credit card penetration. Maybe like 20% of people have credit cards. So now when it's time for people to purchase, I found out it was difficult. People, yeah, they want to get a book, but they don't have a credit card. Yeah, I want to get a book, but my Visa debit card doesn't allow me to purchase on Amazon.
hmm.
And a lot of authors get caught in that, and they're thinking, well, I put in all this work, but then my book isn't selling. It's
Hmm.
because if you're in the Caribbean, you might have to do that extra step, printing books here, getting them into bookstores, even putting them on marketplaces so that persons can easily buy. I had to learn that the hard way. But it also showed me that you have to do things a bit different here if you want to get a little bit more success.
And and I like that particular mindset. You didn't just say throw up your hands and say, okay, that's it. We don't pay for the day, like we close up shop, we can't sell. Okay, you know what? I mean, there's a stone in the road. You found a way around the stone to get the book sold.
Yeah, I really didn't give myself much of a choice actually, because when I decided on the first book, I said I wanted to go all in. And I felt like the best way to do that was to kind of force myself into action. So I would have taken out a loan to help pay for different aspects of the book. So I put myself in a position where, hey, if I don't sell books, I can't pay my loan. So I better start selling books. And as soon as that realization is there, you find that you get very, very active and you're kind of forced into getting certain things done. So it helped push me, and I'm very grateful that I made a decision because it taught me a lot about the process.
Yeah, I mean that reminds me. I'm thinking of a story where it is. I think it was some guys went to war. They came
Mm.
across on ships, and the captain was like, you know what, we are going home until we finish this war. So he burnt the ship. So I guess you put yourself in a position like that, you know.
More or less, yeah.
I mean, but we're talking about the process. Let's talk about the book. I mean, in your own words, give us a bit of detail about the book. Not too much that we don't know what it's up, that we, don't have to buy, but enough that it would just whet our appetites to just go out there and get our own copy.
I know we're talking about the first one, right?
Yeah, the millennial mind, not the millennial experience. We'll do that another day. We'll get back to that.
Yeah. So basically, the millennial mind is meant to be a very relatable book to millennials. It's meant to kind of talk about our experiences that, in individuals we think it's very unique, but because we all have a similar, somewhat upbringing, a lot of the way that we think and react to certain situations, it's just based on our generation, right? Um, I've often been told people read the book and they say it feels like you're following me and you're describing my life exactly, or I thought I did X because of this reason, but because I read your book, I realized I'm doing X because of another reason. It's really pointing out these things to us that we are doing, but we don't realize the effect it's having on us or why we're even doing it. And that came about because when I started my journey as a personal development coach and leadership development coach, I mean, it just so happened that the persons that I would be coaching happened to be persons my age, millennials. And you're meeting with persons, you're doing the training with them, you're seeing their issues, you're seeing the surface issues, but then you're seeing what the core issues are. And I'm seeing this trend that a lot of the millennials that are coming across my door, they all have the same core issues that are being expressed in different surface ways, but it's all the same core, right? And it just occurred to me, well, how could I help more people without being there? When I sit with someone one-on-one, I see the effects. And that's when I got the idea for the book. So when you talk about different aspects of, you know, um, for example, we have quarter life crises. They had a midlife crises. We are very impatient type, so we get in this crisis in our quarter life. You're reaching 25, 26, and you start to wonder, well, why don't I reach into 30? It's getting closer and closer. Why haven't I achieved things I said I would achieve? Start to feel anxious, start to feel like you're not enough. And a lot of persons are going through that, and they will realize a lot of other persons are going through it as well. And there's a reason for that, or different aspects of patience or commitment, or how the little things that we do build up into habits and can have an overall effect on our future. So the book really just tries to encompass all these different foundational aspects of personal development, but putting it on a backdrop of what it's like as a millennial, and what that means for what you can do to be better. Because when I wrote it, the main thing I wanted to do with it, I wanted it to be, one, relatable, um, two, very practical, as in you read it, you can do the little exercises at the end of each chapter and make a change if you want. Um, and I just wanted it to be more than just motivational. So I kept those tenets in mind when I wrote the book, and I'm just happy that a lot of the feedback I would have gotten is based on, that exact thing.
Right. In terms of the reception of the book, how has that been?
Yeah. Now I was terrified because when my book launch was starting to happen was when COVID came and we started in the lockdown. So I
Hmm.
would have had to do a fully virtual book launch. I think it was the first of its kind at the time.
Hmm.
Um, I put my all into it, and I must say, we went through hell, but the results were amazing. We ended up getting about 2,000 plus people to actually view the book launch, which was,
Nice,
phenomenal.
nice, nice.
And I had a target at the time of 1,000 books being sold within the first year.
Mhm.
We're actually able in the team to make that in the first 6 months,
Whoa.
which is crazy because at the time, I don't know, most people may not remember, but everything was closed. So it's not like I could have put the book into bookstores and someone could go to the bookstore to purchase. All the books were either bought on Amazon or they were
Mhm.
delivered to someone directly or TT posted to them.
Look at
So
that.
yeah,
Look
so you're
at that.
talking about in that span of 6 months, just books being delivered, books being TT posted, persons buying on Amazon. And the response was insane. And it really showed me the power of what becoming an author can do for you as an individual, what it can do for your goals, or what it can even do for your business. Because, at that point, I, I mean, once you do it well and you use the momentum properly, but I would have gotten all the different daily newspapers, countless interviews, been called on to be in different panel discussions because, again, the book is self-help tied to my business. I kind of now position myself as a niche leader. So
Mhm.
book then becomes like a business card, introducing yourself to the world and different corporations and different individuals. So it really kind of catapulted a lot of what I was doing further and faster. And it really showed me the power of what what a book can do for you, especially when you are kind of using it in that vein of business.
You mentioned that the book is sort of like your calling card.
Yeah.
Seeing that you're a personal development coach, do you use your book in your personal development seminars or sessions?
Yeah, of course, of course. Typically, persons get a copy for free. I even had a program that was built off of the book, so people had to read a chapter. Then we do a worksheet, you know, because I mean, all the tenets of personal development they're there, but sometimes you just want to make it fun, make it interesting, and the book definitely brought that little flair to make it a bit different than the usual type of program that we would do. But no, 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 it definitely kind of added that flair. I mean, it came to a point where when I go into meetings, sometimes I just bring a copy, give it to the person that I'm meeting with, and it just kind of it's so different that they never really forget it, and it really does help me to keep pushing forward.
All right. I was looking at the book, and one of the things that got my attention is that I really thought that the cover of the book was professionally done.
Mm.
I've been talking with a number with a self-publishing author from Barbados, not author, sorry, a publisher from Barbados. And one of the pieces of advice that he always gives the persons is to invest in your work. If it is that you want your book to sell, make the cover look like, it's something that persons would want to pick up, that persons would want to read, etc. And I think your book is one of those because I looked at it and I was like, wow, my first impulse was to touch the cover because it looked
Yeah,
nice and
yeah,
then it wasn't very thick. I
yeah.
mean, I'm nothing against reading, but if it isn't thick, then I mean, I would finish it fast, and I'm more inclined to go to it like that. So that was interesting. That was
You
interesting.
you you will have no idea. People have no idea the amount of thought and research I really had to put into that first book. First of all, you're talking about a generation that people are saying they don't like to read. They don't have the attention span for it. So first off, the book, I said, nah, this book can't be more than 200 pages. Somebody have to look at that and not be intimidated. So that was done intentionally. Even the chapters are done in a way where you get just enough so that you reach, oh, it's over. Because when you reach the end of a chapter, it's easier to then, okay, let me go to the next one, as opposed to you're reading the chapter and it's going on forever and ever, and you're just like, oh God, when does it end?
I saw that, and that's what one of my motivations was. So yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
And,
yeah.
um, yeah, and then even like so obviously well, when I started, I had no knowledge. So I would have found different books, actually even done some courses to learn. Um, One of the common threads was about book covers and how your book cover has to send the right message. Because really the book cover is the calling card because your book could actually be trash. But you see, if you have a good book cover and somebody pick that up, that makes all the difference. And I needed to find something that as a millennial, you just see that and you just think, yourself, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Outside of the actual name, when you look at it and you see the emojis and your brain, you're thinking, this, it brings out something in you that you're like familiarity. And even when I'm publishing books for authors and helping them, I always mention, your book cover needs to catch the eye of the intended audience. They need to see it, and without a doubt, they have to say, yeah, this is the book I need to pick up, even if they don't read.
And I think it does that. I think it does that. Um, One of the things that kind of stood out to me as well is the book launch. And as you said, your book launch had to be different based on the situations and conditions. And again, this in any other situation, someone would have been like, why we can't sell books today in a COVID, now you pack up and go home. But here it is, I'm not too sure if you work together with a team. You guys devised a way around this situation and you all decided, you know what, let's try a virtual book launch and see, what we can do with something like this. Uh, All this preamble was just to ask the question, you're engaged in other businesses, etc. Would your experience in your previous businesses, in your previous enterprises, would it have contributed to you devising this course of action towards, getting your book launched, and the course of action being this virtual book launch?
Yeah, 1,000%, because, well, I'm lucky that I was more involved in an event company back then, so we threw in parties, right? It's just true that we threw in parties, right? And these events, 2,000, 3,000 people, I'm directly involved in the planning. So even before the book launch, when I'm doing the book, it helped me to rationalize getting the book done, because I'm telling to myself, my book is gonna cost $150 TT. If I can sell 100 tickets for our fete, that's $350 in a little 3 month span. I could more than sell 1,000 books at a 150 over a year. And that actually kind of gave me the confidence to say, yeah, you know what? No matter what, I can at least get a few 300, 400, 500 copies out there, right? Then moving forward to the book launch, I'm not a do it alone guy. I've never been that guy. So the first thing I did after I finished my book manuscript and I sent it off to edit was create a team. So I had someone who was dealing with marketing and PR. I had an event team that was just focused on the book launch itself. I had an author friend of mine. He was like a mentor. So different decisions, because clearly I didn't know what to expect. So he was really helping to kind of give me the confidence to know what decisions would help me moving forward. So when it came time now and COVID was among us and we started planning the event, it was actually very stressful because I had already paid down on certain things like deposit for venue, and I even paid for like a material for a sculpture so that someone could make a giant brain to put in the actual event. And so I was scrambling now when COVID has arrived, and I've already spent a big chunk of money and I had no idea what we're doing next. And I'm actually grateful for my event team at the time, because they would have pulled me up and said, hey, Daniel, we haven't heard anything from you in a while, because obviously I am just perplexed at this whole situation. I felt like the rug was being pulled from underneath me, and it was just very hard to rally after that point. But they pulled me up, we had a meeting, and just looking at the different parts of the event that we wanted to do, it really did make sense that we could still do it everything the same way, but just do it in a virtual fashion. And then even thinking about the virtual, it made a lot more sense, because I would be able to reach more persons, because when you do it virtually, anybody could just tune in. And so said, so done, because obviously they had the persons who would want the best meal. They're there. They would have the individuals who might see the book, be like interested. But then there's just persons who just have nothing to do with it. Someone shared it, they saw it, and they're tuning in. So for us to be able to get those numbers of 2,000 plus viewers, I mean, that is on account of it all being done virtually, and the push, of course. So it may have turned out better, who knows, based on the circumstance, but it's just a testament that when you are going through this process and you really want to do your book and you want to do it really well, it helps to have a team. So for my next book that's coming out in April, I have a whole team. I'm not even playing, because I want to make sure that I can focus on what I need to focus on, and they
Yeah.
can focus on the important elements that I need their full attention on. Because I know what I want, I know how I want it done, I have my targets, and I know that as one person, I cannot do it myself.
No, I mean, wow, just wow. There are so many takeaways from that. I mean, first off, I mean, it's kind of interesting how the first book launch went and everything. So even though, things didn't go as planned, the things had gone sideways in a sense, you were able to learn from the experience. And a lot of your takeaways were here's what, you're not doing the same thing, you're not doing certain things, you're not doing the same way again. So it's really good. That's one of your takeaways. I was
Yeah.
curious though, with your virtual book launch, were you able to gauge if persons who attended were only from Trinidad, or were there persons from outside of Trinidad who attended your virtual book launch?
So back then, they didn't really have those virtual platforms set up yet because, again, this was literally the day that they shut down the country, right? So
Yes.
that exact month. So I know a couple of months later, they had all these fancy virtual setups and all that. We literally went live on my Instagram page. My business Instagram page, we just went live. And that's how we would have been able to get it out there. So it's not to say that we would have been able to see where the different viewers would have been from. We would have only really been able to see the number of persons that were there. Um, but I mean, luckily we would have had like a sign up system for the book launch beforehand. And for that, we would have seen persons signing up, giving their information, and then of course we would have seen what islands they would have been from. It was
Mm.
shocking. People from Jamaica would have tuned in, which was very interesting. But the
Mhm.
majority of us would have been from Trinidad. And you get the normal ones from New York, probably the Trinis who are up in New York and Canada and these places. But
Mm.
yeah, the spread was a lot of it was expected.
I mean, in terms of the book sales, were you able to gauge again, like the distribution of the persons, whether strictly Caribbean or outside of the Caribbean or so?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I know exactly where they would have been purchased, right? So about, I think it's about 25% would have been via Amazon
Hmm.
sales, right? And then about 50% would have been through persons getting it delivered directly to them from the service that I had set up then. And then like the last 10 or 5%, I believe, would have just been from the bookstores. So all that data is so meaningful for right now to help me make decisions with all the rest of my books. Trust me, like I crunch those numbers and it helps me to create targets now so that I know that if I am able to be within a certain range with certain targets, I can almost expect a certain amount of book sales. So that's why I can have a level of confidence knowing that if I put in this amount of work, I'm going to get something out of
Okay, I mean, you sound like a you sound like a sharpshooter there. You have your targets and stuff. You have your metrics. So now it's just you have it in your sights, and it's just oh to execute. With your experiences, if there are persons who are listening to this podcast right now, and who are interested in writing their own book, what are two pieces, let's say three pieces of advice you would give to them based on all the experiences uh,
it.
that you would have described during the course of this exchange?
Right. Well, I'll pull from the new book since it's more or less about this exact same topic. I'll say, first of all, understand what your goals are for yourself, your book, and or your business. Um, at least have an idea of what you want to come out of it. You don't want to just write a book for writing a book's sake. Like decide how far do you want this book to take you? Do you want this book to be linked to your business? Do you just want to have a creative expression? Is this a passion project? If you are putting it out there, how many sales do you want to make? What impact do you want it to have on the world, on yourself, and your community? These are important questions to ask and answer and then put into goals before you get anything done. Because when you know the amount of passion that you have towards this specific campaign, you will know how far you're willing to go. Because during the course of writing a book and putting it out to the world, you're going to have to make a lot of crucial decisions. And you want to have those decisions tied to the goals that you set, right? Because if not, you'll be kind of all over the place. So that's what set those goals for the book, yourself, and your business if it is if you're tying it to a business. Two, I always like to give advice with writing because that is basically the most important part. You have nothing until they write the book. Everybody's different, but just the basic things. You start off with a specific skeleton, whether that be you have the book name, maybe some chapters written out, and then for each chapter having some guiding notes about like what do you want to write about, where do you want this book to go, how do you want it to impact persons, right? And you just have those guides so that when you sit down and write, you're just focusing on that chapter or that note or that section so that your writing doesn't feel overwhelming because if you try to write a book focusing on the whole, it'll be quite overwhelming. But if you're just writing on a daily basis and you're just focusing on a section, there'll be less, pressure, right? And of course, within our writing, I mean, for me, daily writing works. I try to keep it to 5 to 10 minutes a day or more. I'm at half an hour to hour now, right? But everybody's different. Everybody's schedule is different. You could write Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or just weekends. It just depends on you. And then thirdly, I mean, so much things. I think the biggest issue for a book, if it is you really want to get it out there properly, is obscurity. So understanding how you can get eyes on your book. The worst thing to happen is you put your book out there and then you just get no sales. I hate to see that. I don't want that for anyone. So it's really to have a plan on, okay, I have this book, I'm putting it out to the world. How best do I package it? How do I share it with the world? Right? And you need to be very specific or get an expert to help you, because it's very easy enough to do that, marketing person, so that you're not just, my book is out and then nothing. All right, so goals, some writing advice, and then marketing. That would be the 3 tips I would say for someone who wants to put a book out there.
Right. I mean, we know that the advice is gold because, I mean, having gone through what you would have gone through, we know, he's giving us the good stuff. He's giving us the good stuff. But in terms of the book, if it is that person's wanting to get copies, where can we get it?
Right, so if you are local in Trinidad, we have copies in RIK and Nigel Arcan, which is restocking soon. Of course, it's on Amazon, so you can purchase the paperback on Amazon, or the Kindle version as well. It's on there. Those are basically, I think those are the only places you can get the book. And of course, I have persons who would reach out to me on my social media, whether Daniel Martin Francis or the business page Rebit Limited, who message me directly. And sometimes I'll just deliver the book to them directly, have a nice conversation, or even TT post it to them, depending on where they're at. I just want to make sure that there's multiple different ways that persons can, of course, get access to the book.
Okay, I mean I think that's excellent because I mean, in a sense, you are the product and you're passing on the product as well. So yeah, that personalized touch, full 100 points, full 100. In terms of 2024, I mean, what should we expect from Daniel Francis? I mean, you mentioned another book launch. I mean, what should we keep our ears out for? What should we keep our eyes out for on social media where Daniel Francis is concerned?
I'm just right. This year, 2024, for me is go big or go home. That's where I'm at. So the goal is 4 books, 2 within that vein of helping authors, and 2 within the Millennial series. So the first one is carded for April. I'm very excited about it. And then I have ones in July or August, and then the final one in November. And I think growth should make you feel a bit uncomfortable. So you should stretch your goals. So I said, you know what? Let's 10x everything. So my goal for this first one is to get 10,000 books sold within that first 3 to 6 months. Put in all the hard work so that I can then set the stage for all the other books. So this first book launch is going to be a Caribbean-wide, very intense one, because again, this book is for anyone who wants to write or self-publish as an aspiring Caribbean author. So it's meant to be a whole cultural community building type thing. And I'm targeting all the different islands, even though the book launch will be here. Of course, it'll be streamed to everyone. And really said that message that, if you want to be an author, there's a way. And let me show you the way. And then just, again, keep passing on that information, because when I do all this hard work to figure out how to get, what's the best way to get the book into different islands and the best process, this information is going to be passed on to all these other Caribbean authors so that you can do the same thing without having the stress and hassle of having to figure it out yourself. So the goal is really those books, officially putting my publishing company out there, the self-publishing services and education, and really just, developing the culture of the Caribbean through books. And I think I can do that with my books and the publishing company.
I just have one last question. I know that you'd have taken a lot of care in terms of putting together a book, taking into consideration and doing research into the way that the cover is done in terms of the thickness of the book, the number of pages, etc. Reading is a challenge for persons, I guess, not just in the Caribbean, but I guess if right about now, the time that we live in. What advice can you think of to give to parents who will be trying to encourage their children to read a bit more?
Yeah, I would always just say start small because even for me, I hated reading. Um, but it's only when I took the approach of doing maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe half a chapter, one chapter, and just calling it a break, calling it there. That really helped me to then work my way up to higher numbers, especially with kids, those smaller little reading sessions, and make it easier for them to evolve into higher ones. And you can also make it a game, also incentivize it so that it's fun for them. They actually want to read, and over time they might create their own love of reading from that. So with kids, it's always just make it fun. If it's an adult, just start small and build from there.
All right. Well said. So, ladies and gentlemen, author, entrepreneur, personal development coach, and host, Daniel Francis. Daniel, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed by us.
Of course, it was a pleasure.
And I'm looking forward to all your offerings for 2024. And yeah, we're looking to see what it is you'll be doing.
I mean, hot and heavy.
Make sure and burn those boats, man. Burn the boat.
Will do.
Okay, you take care.
Same to you.
You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.